Hi there, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
So what's new in your life, T?
Well, nothing new so much. The holidays are coming up and I'm getting excited about that.
Yes, they are. This year I'm looking more forward to it because we were out of town last year, so I get more time to prep and things and not feel like I'm rushed. I hate it when I'm rushed. The holidays are busy enough as it is.
I'm over it.
It hasn't even started and you're over it yet.
And I am looking forward to it. I love the feel of the season, but I don't really want to do any work at home anymore. I'm like, I want to be in the audience.
You want your participation award.
Yes, I do. That's it.
So I have our current event 0 cents. Are you ready?
Bring it.
I couldn't believe this one. It's actually kind of, I don't know if I want to say funny or sad. It's kind of a little bit of both. So one day, a woman wanting to get her family history, she went on to Ancestry.com, like we do, and finds out she has a sibling. Not too big of a surprise since her mother was artificially inseminated. So she pursues it further to find out she has more than just one.
Oh.
After some time, she found out she had 91 siblings.
Okay. Not mom, obviously.
Apparently, the fertility doctor in Indianapolis that her mother used was making his own deposits and using them on patients. The doctor said he only did it a few times when he didn't have enough samples from other donors. However, when he was investigated, he told the board he didn't use any, and in fact, signed and mailed a form stating just that. So now all the children are suing this doctor. I kind of don't know how I feel about this part, because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be here. But I guess a lot of them have medical problems and some want compensation.
I'm confused by this. I'm shocked that the women aren't suing the doctor, because that's not what they paid for. I don't understand how the children can sue the doctor.
Maybe some of the mothers are. I just know there's lawsuits against this doctor.
Well, yeah, that's completely unethical.
The doctor was convicted of obstructing justice, not of using his own sperm, but that he lied when he signed the form. He got a 1-year suspended sentence. Since then, I think they found one more sibling, and they are continuing to look for more. Can you imagine all these women being artificially inseminated in the same area and all these siblings running around growing up not knowing?
I mean, when you do this kind of thing, you're opening yourself up to so many weird things. I don't know how to feel about it. And you don't really know what you're buying, obviously. So it's all very bizarre.
He's not the only one. There are dozens of doctors in the U.S. and other countries that have been accused of the same thing. They even have a list of the top 7.
Wow, crazy. People are still nuts out there.
Well, you know what? If they weren't, we wouldn't have a show.
That's true.
What do you got for us this episode?
So this episode is going to be filled with a lot of my own personal thoughts.
You're not taking a stand.
I am kind of taking a stand, but my heart is broken. Let's put it that way. Let me start by saying that I think some of us, I'm assuming it's not just me, we just mind our business, hold hands, sing kumbaya, and live our little lives. And as long as we're at least somewhat happy and content in life, it's easy to think that most people in this country, the United States, are having kind of sort of the same adventure. Or maybe I should specify at least those that are being productive, law-abiding citizens who genuinely pursue peacefulness. Because there's some Delulu weirdies out there who think they're the norm, but they ain't. And deep down, you Lulus all know who you are.
Wow, that was a whole lot packed into an opener. Can't we be normal? What did you call us, weirdies?
There are some weirdies out there, and I'm putting it nicely at that point. Now, that whole happy life may seem like a blanket statement, and some people might be thinking, what bubble are you living in, cray cray?
I'm raising my hand.
But I truthfully believe that this perception in general applies to lots of people, at least the semi-normal ones, which includes my little semi-normal bubblehead itself. Would you agree, Blondie?
Yes, I would agree.
But it truly weighs heavily on my heart to say that when I occasionally peek outside of the bubble, there's a never-ending stream of dreadful news about how disturbingly ugly people behave. It's everywhere. And my question is, why? Why is there still so much hate in today's world? And it seems like most of that hatred comes from ignorance and radical entitlement. People going after people who don't even know each other or have had any type of encounters. And of course, I know this happens with war, which is tragic and unfortunate, but that's not what I'm talking about at all. So let's not get any of that twisted up into this. Hearing stories like the one we're about to tell, it firstly infuriates me. Secondly, it hurts my heart to know that in our society, so many people are still capable of such unprompted atrocities. I'm talking about absolutely no reason whatsoever to victimize somebody. Since when is it okay to normalize hatred? So I initially wasn't a big fan of this word, but the word woke comes to mind. And let me just say, the world needs to be woke the hell up. Enough is enough already.
Enough is enough.
Side note, I'm going to interchange names and sexual gender for the same person, our unfortunate victim, throughout this story because people refer to this person in different ways at different times, and I want to keep the information authentic, the exact way it was said. I know language regarding sexual identity is very important in the LGBTQ community, and because I'm going to bounce around, I'll do my best to keep that respectful and accurate. If I misspeak on anything, please know it's not intentional. Let's let the grim begin. 19-year-old Jaheim Pugh of Alabama, aka Bella, and aka Barbie, was known to be funny, kind, and had a huge personality. Definitely not afraid to speak his mind. Like absolutely no fear, zero. I admire the hell out of people with this type of disposition. They're always so much fun to be around because you never know what's going to come flying out of their mouths. They usually have like no filter and are hilariously blunt. And sometimes will say things that I wish I had the nerve to say.
I know exactly what you mean. I can think of someone in particular that just says what comes out of his mind, and it's hysterical 95% of the time. And he doesn't even think a thing of it.
I like how you give him 5% to mess up because that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
When Jaheim was very young, his mom called him Dennis the Menace because he was very mischievous. But his mom describes him this way with a little smile, like she was kind of proud of that playful side of him. And you know what I always say, I love naughty dogs and naughty kids because I just feel like you got to be super ballsy to have that type of personality, especially toward the hand that feeds you and get away with it.
Exactly.
Spunky little Jaheim came out to his mom, Tiffany, when he was only 12 years old. Tiffany said he just jumped in the car one day and matter-of-factly said, "Mom, I'm gay." She said she looked at him and said, "Huh? When? Where? How?"
How?
Right. I totally get this. If my kid was gay and I didn't have a single clue, I probably would have said the exact same thing. Total confusion.
And at 12, that he knew and just came right out with it? Like,
if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Tiffany admitted that she cried at first and blamed her parenting. She thought maybe she had not done something important as a mother that he may have needed. So they both went to therapy to process their emotions and learn how to deal with this new situation. That all sounds great, right?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't get mad. She's agreeing to therapy and really going the extra mile. But I just love Tiffany because she admitted that she did all those wonderful mom of the year things for herself. She unwittingly had made it all about her and not about her son. When Tiffany finally realized what she was doing, she pushed herself and her feelings to the side in order to figure out what was best for Jaheim and what he needed during this time. Wow. Talk about keeping it real, huh? I can only imagine how many parents did that very same thing when their kid came out and they were completely caught off guard. It's not an intentionally bad thing. It kind of sounds like a coping skill. But Tiffany recognized her mistakes fairly quickly and corrected her path. Now that's great parenting.
Good for her that she didn't react in a bad way. She just took it all in and big pictured it and realized what was best for her and her son.
After a moment, she realized it because she did make it about her, but she was honest about that.
Well, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Was Jaheim's dad in the picture?
Yeah, he was. I don't think he and Tiffany were together. I didn't get that impression, but He had a totally different reaction. He says that when he found out that Jaheim was gay, he was very nervous for his son. Even though Jaheim seemed unafraid and was living loud and proud, his dad felt like being gay in their community was not going to be easily accepted. He felt like his son might be living a potentially dangerous life. You know, he's also being very real about his fears, and I'm sure as a loving father, those fears kept him up at night.
At least his father was looking at it maybe as a practical way. I don't know if that's the right word, but he was looking at it, again, in a different big picture.
He was seeing the risk, you know,
Right.
and there is risk. So, yeah, he was being real. But of course, not everyone was supportive of Jaheim. After coming out, he was regularly harassed in school. At one point, the football team even tried to jump him. Another time, someone threw a chocolate milk straight at the back of his head. So he picked up some plates and angrily started throwing them everywhere in response. He screamed, "Who did it? Who did it?" You know, in my head, I envisioned this milk thing happening and the tension it must have immediately created because he felt so disrespected. But he had to defend himself. He needed to give it right back and show no fear. He's not going to be messed with. He was a loving person, but everybody has their limits.
And it's sad that he had to go through that. Did you say that they lived in Alabama?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know when this was? Like what year?
2020.
Okay.
Because of this repeated harassment, his mother suggested that he just get his GED and go into college because now she's getting worried about him. But Jaheim said he was not going to be cheated out of his high school experiences. He wanted to participate in school activities just like everyone else. He especially wanted to go to his senior prom. So he wasn't going to take the easy way out and quit. And not only was he not going to quit, but he was going to finish out his years his way. He was going to start wearing wigs and cute and sexy girly clothes if and when he wanted to. He just wanted to be his true self and do what makes him happy. And why shouldn't he be allowed to be himself and do all the school stuff? He wasn't hurting anybody. He earned the right to be there like everybody else. Your high school years should be filled with glorious memories. So with his mom's blessing, that's exactly what he did. He was entirely who he wanted to be from that point on. Sometimes he was Jaheim, but mostly he became bubbly and glamorous Bella, or cute and sexy Barbie.
I like that he had different personas.
I know, I do too. We all want different personas, don't we?
All the time.
Remember your senior year? Mine was awesome. I really made it count. So many good times.
I remember the end of the year more than anything. I felt special yet sad at the same time.
Why did you feel sad? Because you were leaving school?
Yeah. I mean, you hate school while you're going through it, but then once you're done, you're like, oh man, now I got an adult.
And you don't even know what's coming your way at that point. Then adulting shows up and you're like, oh, this really sucks.
Yes. I'm so tired of trying to figure out what to make for dinner.
Okay, if that's your worst thing.
Well,
That's what you're worried about in adulting.
let me tell you, it wears on a soul.
Okay. Jaheim, who we will now refer to as Bella at this stage of her life, loved to go out to dance, and she was naturally the life of the party. Her friends described her as such a bright light. She got a lot of attention, in fact, so much attention that her mother worried every time she stepped outside their door, as that attention came as positive and negative. Tiffany had valid reasons for worrying. Bella proudly identifies as gender nonconforming, which is a person who doesn't conform with the gender norms expected of them by society. Sometimes he was masculine, and sometimes she was feminine. But Bella started coming through more often than not. She would tell her mom, quote, "I'm going, finna take my pretty self out," end quote. I love that. She sounds so sassy.
So sassy.
So much confidence in who she was and how she looked. And yes, she really was beautiful, inside and out.
She sounded like she didn't let things get to her.
Yeah,
She just, did what she wanted to do, which was best for her in her life.
just trying to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Bella, like most people, wanted to have romance in her life. She had a great group of trans friends in Mobile County who called her their sister, and they supported each other through some tough times. When these friends were interviewed, they said it really wasn't easy being trans. It's a complicated and very difficult lifestyle. They feel like they're being watched all the time and they can never truly relax. Quote, "You can't let your guard down anywhere, not even church. People will prey on your downfalls. Don't trust anybody," end quote, said one of the friends.
That's a scary concept.
But probably very true. People sometimes saw them as unapproachable because they just keep to themselves, not knowing who was going to come out of the woodwork and bother them. One of the ladies also said, quote, "Some people consider us as just sex, just prostitutes," end quote. I just want to say how crazy it is that just because it looks like someone is trans, anybody would think that that means they're a prostitute. That is so ignorant. When it's important enough to a person to be their true selves, even though they know it could make them targets of violence and harassment, you know they're living that life because they just can't be happy any other way. Otherwise, they just wouldn't do it, right? But that's how important it is. So who cares what people are wearing or who they fall in love with? As long as you're a consenting adult, I don't care. Do you?
No, not at all. I mean, just be yourself. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, just be yourself.
All that matters is that they're good people, period.
That's all anybody can ask, really.
So let's get into the night of the incident. Jacoya, one of Bella's best friends, said that they'd been together earlier that day, and Bella was talking about a big party at a hit house that she wanted to go to. For those that don't know, like I didn't, a hit house is usually an abandoned house where random parties pop up. And this particular hit house was well known for a lot of shenanigans and illegal activities. Jacoya said that for safety, their trans group usually doesn't do things alone. But she was familiar with this hit house and didn't really want to go to the party with Bella because she felt like there was going to be some, quote, ghetto activities. The hit house was in the city of Prichard. The trans group usually stayed away from Prichard because they are often targeted there by straight men. So Prichard is considered a dangerous place for them.
You know, I've seen videos of kids breaking into hit houses. They were usually houses that were for sale, and they have giant parties there, and unfortunately, they do some damage.
That actually happened to a neighbor across the street from my last house. They had a house just like ours, a big house, and someone was coming in through the bedroom window upstairs. All we saw were people coming in and out through the front door, though. And we just saw a bunch of nonsense going on there, and come to find out they had broken in and were having parties and doing God knows what in there.
So sad.
Yeah, I mean, how ridiculously ballsy do you have to be?
Apparently very.
But Bella really wanted to go to this party. She said a guy friend was coming to pick her up and take her to the party. According to her friends, Bella had been seeing a new DL guy for about 2 months. DL guys are men who are on the down low, meaning someone who's not comfortable with people knowing he's dating a trans woman. But this DL guy was treating Bella very well. He was thoughtful and bought her gifts, even Victoria's Secret lingerie. But they felt like he was telling her what she wanted to hear. Yep, we know the type. Smooth talkers. And by the way, when I was dating, I don't think a guy ever bought me lingerie. What about you?
No, at that age, I was lucky to get a drive-in movie and popcorn. I did get a lot of the smooth talkers, though.
They're all smooth, aren't they?
And by the way, I love the name Jacoya.
It's pretty. It's very pretty.
It is. Reminds me of a flower or a tree.
Jacoya said Bella arrived at the party at about 10:30 p.m. in a very vivid, bright rainbow striped jumpsuit. Bella really loved her outfit and how it made her stand out. But after being there a few hours, she started texting and calling Jacoya to come pick her up. Now, this wasn't like Bella. She seemed desperate to get out of the house. But then the calls and texting suddenly stopped. And when Jacoya tried to text her or call her back, she wasn't getting any responses. So she drove to the hit house at about 3:45 a.m. But there were about 75 cars parked all wonky on a narrow street, and she couldn't drive her car very close to the house. She got as close as she could, but she didn't see Bella waiting for her outside like they agreed. She hadn't heard anything from her either when she tried to reach her. Jacoya didn't feel comfortable going into the house, but waited outside for about 10 minutes and then decided to leave.
Wow.
You know, at first when I heard she only waited 10 minutes, I'll admit I got a little judgy, I'm not going to lie. But in this case, I'm realizing that because of how the trans community is treated, she had a bad feeling the whole time, even while Bella was texting her nonstop. And like the group said earlier, they have to be careful and not trust everybody. So it sounds like she went with her gut and took off. Nobody can blame her for this. I mean, Bella might have changed her mind and decided to stay without telling Jacoya. And Jacoya had made it very clear she wanted nothing to do with going into this house. Sadly, it turns out that her gut was right.
It's amazing how he pushed down those gut feelings. But honestly, if I've learned anything, I kind of go with it. I was thinking she could have taken the police with her, but I see where you said she thought maybe Bella wanted to stay and probably thought that wasn't a good idea, especially if this was a hit house and they weren't supposed to be there.
Well, not that they weren't supposed to be there, but it sounds like it was dangerous for trans people to be there. And that was something they considered, and that's why Jacoya didn't want to go. She knew it wasn't their hangout.
Right. And that could have been another reason for them to retaliate against the trans community.
Yeah. And if she would have brought the police, imagine. That would not have gone over well.
No.
So she had to go by herself. I get it. Following an investigation the night of the party, police determined that Bella was seen in a car performing oral sex on another male, the DL guy. A friend of the DL guy walked by the car. He saw what was going on and yelled at his friend saying, quote, "Hey, that's a whole dude. Beep, your beep." Then he got loud and crazy and started making other vulgar remarks to the couple. Following this, Bella decided to go inside the house alone. Although rattled, she started dancing and enjoying herself. So I'm going to guess that maybe after this guy harassed her, that's when she probably started texting Jacoya to pick her up. Then she might have started having fun and forgot about it. That's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, she removed herself from the situation and was among other people. I can see that.
Yeah, she felt safe. But shortly after this car incident, while Bella was on the dance floor, someone started shooting. Bella was the first person shot, and she was shot 3 times with a fatal shot to her head. Before the shooting started, someone had been streaming the party live on Facebook for about 20 minutes, and Bella was captured on video dancing in her rainbow jumpsuit and then being shot, taking her last breath and dying on the ground while no one helped. It was crushing to see that people just let her lay there to die alone. Then to make matters worse, horrible and ignorant people started making comments on Facebook by saying things like, well, if he wasn't wearing that dress, he would still be alive. When an ambulance finally arrives, Bella is rushed to a hospital in Mobile County, where she is tragically pronounced dead. Again, I say, what in the hell is wrong with people? Hiding behind social media and saying unthinkable things. There's a special place in hell.
The keyboard jockeys are such cowards.
Ridiculous. Bella was targeted by someone shooting from outside into the house. With 3 bullets in her body, it appeared that Bella was the intended victim. Everybody knows everybody in this part of town, and officers knew Bella, and they also knew that she was a transgender female. Officers noticed a gold car parked right in front of the hit house, and next to that gold car, they found the majority of the shell casings related to the homicide. They belonged to an AK-47. No words.
An AK-47? High school students with an AK-47? What the heck?
I don't know if they were all high school students. I don't know if any of them were high school students. It was just a party.
Still.
Bella was 19.
But, I mean, even so.
Yeah.
Who needs an AK-47?
Nobody. When Bella's grandmother was interviewed, she said she heard gunshots at night because the party was only 2 houses over from where she lived. Quote, "But everybody in the neighborhood has a gun," end quote, is what Grandma said. She heard shots almost every night, so it didn't faze her at all. Now, I'm a little curious why Bella wouldn't run to her grandma's if she felt threatened. It's just a thought.
Oh my gosh, I thought the exact same thing. Why go into the house if her grandmother was just 2 houses down the road? And it's still, everyone has a gun?
This neighborhood it's wild.
Wow.
Bella's father said that he was walking to a gas station that was only a block and a half away from the hit house, and he heard about 4 or 5 gunshots. He said while in the gas station, he asked someone, "Who got shot?" And the guy answered, "Man, a sissy in a onesie." Later, he found out it was his own son.
Oh, poor guy.
Bella's mother, Tiffany, said she was awakened at 7:15 a.m. by a phone call from her mother, who stated that the police had just left her home and told her that Jaheim was shot and killed. So Tiffany immediately went to the hit house herself and started asking questions. She was told repeatedly that, quote, "they shot some gay dude," end quote. Everybody told the same story. It was like his life didn't count because he was a gay dude. When Tiffany told police that this was a hate crime, the police said there was no clear motive for the shooting. They had no evidence. Therefore, they couldn't even investigate it as a hate crime.
I find that hard to believe that it wasn't a hate crime.
Oh, it's definitely a hate crime. But Tiffany felt like her son leaving their home in a brightly colored rainbow jumpsuit, being the first one shot and seemingly the only real targeted person, had everything to do with this being a hate crime, and she wanted it investigated as such. She said she saw the video on Facebook. Ugh, can you imagine?
No, that'd be horrific.
There were lots of people in the house, and absolutely nobody helped her dying son. A couple of other people were shot during the chaos as they ran from the scene, but only suffered minor injuries. They were not targeted like Bella. An eyewitness saw a man that they knew standing on top of a gold Buick and holding an AK-47. The witness knew the shooter because she claims he'd been hitting on her earlier. She identified him as James Lee James, Jr. The police immediately put out a bolo for him.
Why wasn't he on the Facebook video? I mean, everybody had cameras. Why weren't they taking pictures?
Of the shooter?
Yeah. Standing on top of a gold car with an AK-47?
Well, obviously they started running as soon as that happened. Nobody's going to stand there with a camera. The camera was inside the house.
Okay.
On December 16th, 2020, 3 days after the murder, suspect James Lee James, Jr. voluntarily came into the Prichard Police Department for questioning. During his interrogation, the police realized that James was a friend of the DL guy who was ridiculing him for being with a whole dude. With this information, detectives felt that they had enough evidence for a murder warrant and arrested James. But while James was being transported to a waiting car, the media recorded him adamantly saying it wasn't him. He said, "Everybody knows who did it, and it's not me. The person who did it needs to come down and fess up to it."
That's interesting.
I saw the video. He seems very, very confident.
Kind of interesting and random, actually.
In their neighborhood, people don't usually interact with police. But Tiffany received lots of information saying that James is not the man who murdered Bella. But nobody would give her an actual name of who the shooter was. Now let's not forget that this was a huge party. An estimated 100 to 200 people were there, and many witnessed the shooting. How is it possible that nobody comes forward? I get the community keeps it tight and nobody wants to be a snitch, but these are your friends and neighbors. Not even anonymously could someone get that information to her? When there's a will, there's a way. This is where it seems like because of who Bella was, people really didn't want to stick their necks out and get involved, and that's really heartbreaking.
I mean, being such a small community, you'd think that they'd want to keep it safe. It's sad that everyone is willing to say it wasn't this James guy, but they're still protecting the actual killer.
Exactly. I mean, why are they protecting a killer?
The community can't be that small.
Tiffany gave the police all this new information, but they told her they had the guy, and this was an open and shut case. A detective even went so far as to say, quote, "As the mother of the victim, you don't want this guy to be out in the community, do you?" End quote. What? They may have well just said, "Just shut your pretty little mouth that's filled with solid information and don't try to do our job for us." Sounds like they were more interested in just marking it solved and being done with it than actually solving it. And by ignoring the new leads, in reality, they were the ones who were shamefully willing to, leave this killer out in the community rather than investigate further and get the actual murderer off the street. How crazy is that?
Well, like you said earlier, it was like Bella's life didn't matter.
But Tiffany doesn't give up. She keeps forwarding every bit of information she gets to the police. But they're blowing her off big time, and at times just straight out ignoring her while she sat waiting in the police department to speak to someone. They say they can't force people to come in. When a detective finally does speak with her, he says, everybody who went to the party went by choice. Tiffany is shocked. Are they blaming the victim, her son, for being murdered? So this is news to me that anytime you walk out your door, it's your own damn fault if you get shot. Apparently, it's not the shooter's fault that you presented them with an opportunity to kill you.
Okay, I have a lot of feelings about that, so I'm just going to let them sit because it might get a little ugly.
I mean, I would just be like, are you kidding me right now?
Seriously, sitting here shaking my head.
Yeah, police department did not do well on this one. It seems as though the legal system has really failed the transgender community. People are saying that this particular police department is not even doing basic investigative work when it comes to transgender crimes, which means many cases are not being solved. Tiffany was told by a different detective to go to the DA's office for help. He motivated her by saying, if you're not going to fight for Jaheim, who else is? So Tiffany immediately requested a meeting with Ashley Rich, the DA for Mobile. Ms. Rich informed Tiffany that James Lee James was going to be released because he was not the shooter. The bullets in James' gun didn't match the ones that were in Bella. So now, 7 months later, they're back at square one.
So now they have to investigate and not wait for the suspect to come to them?
Yeah, I mean, they can't force him. Stupid.
Just waiting for him to walk through the door.
Yeah, well, when he comes through the door, maybe we'll look into it. Later, the police department in Prichard said they had other witnesses that identified Jarvis Anderson as the shooter. Jarvis was actually the DL guy that had been in the car having sex with Bella. The detective said that he felt that Jarvis may have decided to kill Bella because he was embarrassed after getting caught with a transgender female. There is an intense culture of shame in these types of communities if someone is outed for wanting to explore sex with a transgender. Oftentimes, the perpetrators attack their love interests due to transphobia. A lot of young men in the South live in this culture of toxic masculinity, and some are willing to commit violent crimes to hide their relationships with a person who is transgender.
When Bella was shot, he actually was the first person that came to mind.
That did not come to my mind at all because he was treating her well. So,
but he was humiliated in front of his friends.
Yeah,
so.
But he showed up with her in public. So in my mind, I was like, okay, he's cool with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
After reviewing Jarvis's phone records, detectives saw that he and Bella had been romantically talking and texting for over 2 months. Tiffany said she felt like Jarvis couldn't accept being gay, and in order to prove he wasn't gay after being caught, he had to be man enough to kill Bella. You know, I saw a picture of Jarvis and he's covered in tattoos, which is probably another thing that made him feel more masculine, at least in his own mind.
Yeah, I would agree.
The police said they were conducting a manhunt for Jarvis, but they just couldn't find him anywhere. But Tiffany said she was being texted by random people who saw Jarvis hanging out all over town. One witness actually sat and waited 45 minutes for the Prichard police after calling in Jarvis's whereabouts, but they never came. This happened many times. Throughout this story, I try to see both sides, especially when it comes to law enforcement, because I have great respect for what they do and how they put their lives on the line every single day. But this police department just dropped the ball so many times, and they really didn't seem like they made this murder a priority. There are some bad apples out there, and unfortunately, I think Tiffany was dealing with exactly that.
And you know how I feel about law enforcement. But I do agree and think if it's a small town where everyone knows everyone, that can get into their heads, and that's just sad to say. I'm not saying that there isn't problems everywhere, but because everybody knows everybody.
Well, why would that make law enforcement not go after them?
Because the larger population of people may not have agreed with Bella and her lifestyle. So taking the larger population as opposed to the smaller population, keeping everybody happy.
Different perspective. Okay. The police say they didn't always rush out. Things were delayed because Jarvis was considered armed and dangerous, and he moved around a lot. They claim they would follow up with the sightings, but by the time they got there, he was gone. I'm going to guess he did move around a lot, but just this one witness said he stayed put for over 45 minutes. So, yeah, bad, and let's throw in rotten, lazy apples as well.
And in 45 minutes, if they knew he was armed and dangerous, they could have prepped for that before going to go pick him up.
But the point is they never showed up. They just weren't coming.
No, they weren't. But I'm saying, even at 45 minutes, even if, their excuse was that he was armed and dangerous, they would have had time to prepare for that.
But their so-called manhunt ended October 3rd, 2021. It was almost a year later. At 4 a.m. when police responded to a homicide at a local gas station. When they arrived on the scene, there was a male victim dead from a gunshot wound to the head. Turns out that victim was Jarvis Anderson. Well, it looks like somebody found a way to finally make him stay put.
Well, now that's a comment.
It's true. The surveillance footage from outside the store showed a suspect approach Jarvis and fire several shots straight into his skull. Whether it was intended or not, that is exactly how he killed Bella. So a skull for a skull. Karma.
We love some karma.
Their shooter was identified as 28-year-old Mario Andre Osborne Jr. They arrested him. Mario shut down immediately and requested an attorney, with no explanation as to why he killed Jarvis.
So were they positive that Jarvis was the one who killed Bella?
I think they were still gathering information at this point.
Well, their version of gathering information.
Yeah.
And when Jarvis was shot, I have to admit, I thought the first person that shot him was Tiffany.
If you had seen this documentary, you wouldn't have thought that. Tiffany was above that, but I know you didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, so many times you see the parents going after the killers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd do if someone killed my kid, and I'm not crazy, but yeah, I can see why you'd think it, but she was better than that. I got to give her credit.
Well, good for her.
Yeah.
She sounds like she was I don't want to say rounded, but she had her head on her shoulders.
Yeah, she was well balanced. She was handling things right.
Better way to say it. Thank you.
So needing closure, Tiffany asked for confirmation that police were sure that Jarvis was the one that killed her son. Because if they were sure, then why haven't they closed the case? In the fall of 2022, after submitting a lot of record requests to the Prichard Police Department, Tiffany's phone calls remained unreturned and her emails never received a reply. So she personally went to the police department dozens of times requesting to speak to a detective, but she sat for hours on end and again was completely ignored. Police just refuse to help this mother heal, and if there's a legit reason for it, they need to say something to her. My goodness, she's not asking for much. She just wants answers. Keep her in the loop.
Yeah, they should be keeping her abreast of what's going on.
That's their job. That's their job.
Well, we already know they're not doing it very well.
Yeah, especially in this case. Tiffany said that once Jarvis Anderson was murdered, the police just dropped the case. But Sergeant Bart Andrews, a detective in that police department, finally sat down with a reporter. Now, mind you, he didn't give Tiffany a sit down, but he took the time and made the effort to speak to a reporter. Even more disrespectful. I'd be furious if I was Tiffany.
Yeah, that's beyond rude.
When the reporter reviewed what she knew about the case and asked what the next course of action would be, Sergeant Andrews stated, quote, "Right now we haven't gotten any new information that has changed what we believe is the truth, that Jarvis Anderson was the one that killed Bella." End quote. In his opinion, the case is solved because there's nobody to take to trial. But in the books, the case is not closed. He says that it would have to be formally closed by the district attorney, chief of police, or the mayor. They're the ones that have the authority to close it. I don't understand how they're not anxious to publicly connect the dots and close it out, especially since this case got so much media attention. That's really suspicious.
Yeah, you would think that they want it off the books and done and have resolution.
Yeah, then they look like heroes. As of 2023, the case still sits, technically unsolved and in purgatory, along with many other unsolved cases in Prichard. Sounds like they need to do some house cleaning in that department. The community's level of trust for them is very low, understandably so.
So what are they doing in Prichard?
I have no idea.
Not their jobs.
For sure. Sergeant Andrews agrees that, quote, this case should be classified as a hate crime. The state does acknowledge hate crimes for race, color, religion, national origin, ethnicity, or physical or mental disability, end quote. But there's still no hate crime law for the LGBTQ community. They're not a protected class in the state of Alabama. Now, the added hate crime charge is important because a hate crime carries harsher penalties than regular crimes due to the added element of bias and potential for increased community impact. There's active legislation working on this, but for now, the completely non-empathetic Sergeant Andrews says to the reporter, but then, this is still Alabama. He says it like, good luck with that.
Oh, I bet Alabama residents are happy to hear that little quote.
I'm sure most of them agree if he says it that proudly.
Wow.
Who knows? Mario Andre Osborne Jr. pleaded not guilty for the execution-style murder of Jarvis Anderson, which, let's not forget, was on video. People, sometimes I'm just like, come on.
There's cameras everywhere.
I don't understand. So in February 2025, a Mobile County judge sentenced him to life in prison. Side note, this guy played 2 seasons as a defensive lineman for the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He then transferred to the University of Alabama, but did not play in a game. His attorney tried to get his sentence down to 20 years because Osborne had lots of childhood trauma. He was also in a terrible car accident that caused him to begin abusing drugs. And lastly, he suffered 15 stab wounds while locked up in jail awaiting trial on this murder charge. None of that saved him, though. He still got life.
Wow, not saying that what he did was okay, but sheesh, all of that and 15 stab wounds, he is a tough cookie.
Well, I mean, I feel bad for him about the childhood trauma, but the 15 stab wounds don't go to jail.
Yeah.
You know?
Good point.
This story is about a wonderful human being who's just trying to live their life and be happy. But unfortunately, the dark side of this lifestyle detrimentally impacted Bella's choices. And Bella's not the only casualty. Trans women in the United States have a life expectancy of just 30 to 35 years old. This information is absolutely jaw-dropping. When people are living for nearly 100 years these days, how is it possible that trans women are dying so young? You're supposed to be in the prime of your life at that stage. Stats show that these early deaths are primarily due to violence and discrimination. That's horrific enough, but those stats are even worse for trans women of color like Bella, with even higher rates of fatal violence.
And she was trying so hard just to live her life.
That's all she wanted.
And be happy.
That's it. Rainbows and lollipops. Why are there still so many victims of other people's hatred? If you're a person filled with hate for people's choices, the religion they practice, their political opinions, that's a big one right now, their culture or sexual identity, then do us all a favor and live your sad little angry life solo. Or just surround yourself with people who you can tolerate and leave everyone else alone. If they're not hurting you, then, as my husband would say, kick rocks. Don't bring your despicable, hateful self into any part of the world that's filled with acceptance, support, kindness, and tolerance. Because in that world, the hateful bastards are the obnoxious freaks who don't fit in. This was an unnecessary death, prompted from ignorance and fear. This whole event and many others like it could have played out so differently if people would just educate themselves and stop being ignorant of the unknown. Jaheim, and I'll use this name in this part of the story because his mother does. He came from a big family and was very much loved. Tiffany says that the night that her son died, he was so proud of his rainbow outfit. He even got his brother to take a picture of him before he went out. She said she could hear the two boys in the kitchen with Jaheim telling his brother, "Get it all. Wait a minute. You didn't get my shoes on this one. Take another one. Go back." I could hear it.
Right.
She said it took them about 10 minutes to get that picture right. She said he asked her, "Mama, do I look pretty?" And she said, smiling, "You couldn't just give him one compliment, because if you give him one, you got to give him 10 more. Sassy and entitled. I love it." I'm so glad that was one of her last memories of him being all extra. I'm sure it makes her smile. It makes me smile for sure. The picture taken that night was the one we're using for this story. Tiffany says all she wants is to get Jaheim's story out there so other people don't go through what she's been through. Tiffany said, quote, "Jaheim's legacy in the community is that he was happy. He brought fun and excitement to your life. Jaheim was most definitely not perfect, but he was loved and he mattered." End quote. She was very proud of her beautiful son.
Oh, what a wonderful mother.
And a sad story.
It is a sad story. And I'm a firm believer in just live your life.
Yep.
Be happy.
Yep, I agree completely. Things are getting out of control.
Well, thank you for the sad story. And to our listeners, take care, have fun, and don't forget to let your gramaginations run wild. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
We want to thank you for spending a little time with us. We truly appreciate it. If you'd like to send in your creepy little grimbits, we'd love to hear your personal stories, eerie interests, or strange suggestions. And don't be shy. We love our listeners, and we're excited to hear from you. Email us at grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com.
Stay connected and follow Grimwit with Dimwits on Instagram, X, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, check out our website for more spooky fun at, you guessed it, Grimwit with Dimwits. We'd also really appreciate it if you take a moment to rate and review the show. Those 5-star ratings go a long way. Until then, join us again as we dive deep into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.